call this meeting to order of the December 13th, 2018 Planning Commission, City of Port Orange. Please stand for the pledge, a silent invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Amen.
Amen.
Please call the roll.
John Junko.
Here.
Maria Mills-Bennett. Bo Bofamy. Joe Fazzi.
Here.
Thomas Jordan.
Here.
Lance Green.
Here.
Chairman Newton White.
Here. All right, consideration of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes?
Move we approve.
Do I have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. All right. Moment of housekeeping. I have before me Form 8B, Memorandum of Voting Conflict for county, municipal, and other local public officers. This is pertaining to Commissioner Lance Green, and he discloses that he may have a special private gain or loss regarding item number 5, case number 18500000004, subdivision plat and plans for Bella Oak subdivision, 4068 Carlisle Drive. And I think Mr. Green will explain that briefly.
Yes, I'm employed by Pettis Homes.
Okay, thank you. And with that, I'll call case number 18500000004, subdivision plat and plans, Bella Oak subdivision, 4068 Carlisle Drive. A request by the applicant to approve the final plat and subdivision plans for the Bella Oak subdivisions to subdivide 18.21 plus minus acres into 138 multifamily townhome lots, along with associated subdivision improvements.
Gwen Perney,
Gwen?
planner.
Thank you.
Yes, this is the plat for the Bella Oaks subdivision. The site plan's already been reviewed and approved, it's under construction. This is the applicant's request to actually subdivide the 138 townhome lots into fee simple lots, and staff has reviewed the plat and plans with consistency with the land development code, and then you saw this a couple months ago for the variances that were requested. There was a few outstanding technical comments that will be addressed prior to City Council. Staff is recommending approval of the plat and plans for the Bella Oak subdivision.
All right. Mr. Junko, any questions?
No, it's been through it before, so we're familiar with it.
Joe?
No questions.
John?
No questions now.
All the variances were approved?
Yes.
I have no questions. Does anybody want to hear from, I believe the developer's here. Does anybody want to hear from the developer? Are there any public comments? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Appro-
Oh, I'm so sorry. Already approved. I'm sorry.
Approve, read the case number.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Move to approve case number 18-5000004, subdivision plat and plans Bella Oaks subdivision, 4068 Carlisle Drive.
Do we have a second?
Second?
Please call the roll.
John Junko.
Yes.
Joe Fazzi.
Yes.
Tom Jordan.
No.
Lance Green.
I can't vote.
Oh yeah, sorry. Abstained. Chairman Newton White.
Yes. All right. See that? Carry.
So does that mean does it fail, or does it pass, or fail?
Passed.
Matt?
Okay, it's going to pass with 3-4 with 1 abstained. I mean 3-1 with 1 abstained.
Correct.
Okay. Motion carries. All right, case number 18-25000008, Land Development Code Text Amendment, Chapter 15, Section 4 and 7. Amendment to Chapter 15, Section 4 and 7 of the Land Development Code to allow manual changeable copy signs to be installed in residential subdivisions. Anna?
Brianna Conlon King, planner. The proposed amendment would allow a residential subdivision to install a freestanding sign with manual changeable copy area. This would be in HOA common area. The maximum height would be 8 feet tall. Maximum changeable copy area would be 20 square feet. Sign setback would be 5 feet from a local road right of way, 50 feet from arterial or collector right of way. The sign would be oriented to face away or internally towards the subdivision. It would comply with the visual clearance requirements in the LDC. As part of the sign permit application, a letter of approval would be required from the HOA, and electronic messages would be prohibited. I'm here to answer any questions.
Okay, Lance?
No, I have no comments.
No questions from me.
Joe?
No questions.
John?
Nope.
How does this, I do have a question, how does this differ from the signs that I already see going into many HOA areas where they have a permanent structure, and then it'll have up their HOA meeting tonight at 9 or such as that? How is this different?
So these will be more permanent. I have an example for you. I can show you. So
Yeah, I think that's nice.
So in this, it would look like that instead of the standard where you would, most of the other ones are made of wood and they have the smaller letters, or they would put a piece of paper in there and barely.
Good luck reading it.
Yeah, on your, as you're driving on in or you're driving out, these you can see a lot easier. And
Yeah, because many of the ones that I see that are permanent, like a message board type thing, they have they face the traffic, and I think this specifically says that they're going to face away from the traffic.
correct.
Okay. I have no more questions. I think that looks nice.
I'm good.
Any public comment on subdivision signs? Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve, as noted.
Okay.
Second.
Second.
Mhm.
Call the roll, please.
Sean Junko?
Yes.
Joe Fazzi?
Yes.
Tom Jordan?
Yes.
Lance Green?
Yes.
Chairman Newton White?
Yes. All right, carries. Case number 18-25000009, Land Development Code Text Amendment Chapter 13. Amendment to Chapter 13 of the Land Development Code to update landscaping requirements for residential lots. Jesus, sounds very familiar.
Tim Irwin, Community Development. I think two of you are aware of this because you were at the meeting back in July when this was discussed. I then came to staff report. Staff presented some ideas based off of recommendations from the EAB, the Environmental Advisory Board, back in July. We took those recommendations to City Council at the workshop in October and got some direction on a number of possible code amendments. Basically what we decided to do is kind of break it up into different series, and we'll be bringing those code amendments over the next couple of months. The first one that we addressed was regarding the tree planting requirement for a residential lot. Basically, currently it's 1 tree per 2,500 square feet. And what we've been finding through tree removal permits that have been coming through the city is these lots that are 6,000 square feet or less for residential lots. Once you put a home on there, the driveway, you start putting the pool in there, there's not a lot of room to replant those trees. And then staff had no options to work with the individual on these smaller lots here. So what we did was we had some flexibility to it then, some alternatives, still to comply with code, but basically it's use of understory trees in lieu of the shade tree. Also you can upsize the tree, that way if you're required to put 2 shade trees on the lot, you can upsize to go with a larger shade tree on that lot then. And also working on a contribution to the city's tree mitigation bank then. I think this will help these smaller lots, and that's been a lot that has been developed over the past 15 years here. And when you look back at our code, they never really adjusted the tree planting requirements based on those smaller lots. It kind of was based off the 8,000 and higher lots then. So this is an update on that. Again, any lot over 6,000 square feet would still comply with the requirement and not be able to use those options. And also, when we were cleaning that code up amendment, we noticed that the shrub requirements were also not really consistent with the zoning in there. So we cleaned that up to make it more standard then. So this is the initial code amendment, and you'll be seeing a few more of these as in 2019.
Cool.
So staff is recommending approval of this. And if there's any questions?
Lance?
So if you can't meet the requirement, then an option for you is to pay the tree bank, correct?
One of the options would be.
One of the options, but it's written that way that if you can't meet the requirement, you will
It's-
pay to the tree bank
yeah.
kind of thing?
It's written basically that if you can't meet it, then the administrative official will basically review it. So that's just one of the options that we have in that case. I mean, you can see kind of on the picture here, this is one from Royal Palm. You have a transformer in the lot. You've
Yeah.
got the small lots of duplexes, plus a lot of utilities running there. So in that area where they can plant the tree, there's really nowhere to plant the tree then. So one of
Yeah.
those cases may be a tree mitigation bank.
Right,
If
right.
there is room, it may be that we say, okay, we want trees in there, so we're gonna go with the understory trees, possibly planting palm trees there in lieu of a tree with a larger root system then. So we have kind of they have the option, it's not they just can't pick the option that they want, it gives us the options to work with them in the best case scenario then. Because the intent is still to maintain trees in the residential area then.
Right, right. I think this is a good, it's a good addition, a good
Yeah,
cleanup.
Absolutely.
Tom?
I'm good. No, that's, I like it.
So this is for new construction, developer pays for that, if they can't meet that?
Yeah, this would be for
Developer pays to the city mitigation bank?
Yeah, would apply for development projects too. If it came into, they're proposing like the Royal Palm area here with that tree, we're gonna know right off the bat that there's gonna be an issue with that. We'd work with the developer at that stage, or it also applied to the person who moves into this house 30 years from now, takes out the tree, and then comes into us, then we can work with them. So it kind of is for both sides then.
So, okay, so it's okay, as long as, I just wanna make sure it's a workable thing with,
Because we initially had it for just replacement trees only, but then, when we were doing these subdivisions and we're looking at the new trees, you're kind of, inviting that mess to happen, 2 or 3 years from now. So we'd rather, address it up front
Right.
to prevent, them having to come in and take the trees down and stuff like that then.
This applies to like a tree removal permit too, right?
Yes, tree removal permit.
So yeah, Joe,
So
it applies
covers-
to a tree removal as well, so if somebody comes in to take down something big, they can replace it with something smaller per se.
Right.
Okay, all right, nothing, I'm good, thanks.
John?
What kind of fees are they gonna be for the mitigation bank?
We're still working on that to try to get the, the formula there. We want to, we're still looking at, if the cost of what a shade tree would cost then, or kind of, a mature shade tree, there. We're still looking into what that would be, and most likely we'd set it up as a resolution. That way we can look at it yearly updated. We talked with the EAB, one of the things we're going to do with the EAB board is bring these resolutions to them, yearly to look at updating then. And that gives a little bit more flexibility to update it without having to amend the code each time then.
And that will be per tree?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thanks.
So I mean, you're like still taking inches of trees and all that is all calculated to within.
We'd be looking at that with the tree mitigation bank payment. That's why we're, put in a resolution, and that way it gives us the ability to kind of change it. But we didn't get a chance to develop that yet then, but that's why we kind of put in here that will be part of what goes to council then, and it would be some, type of, payment then.
Right, okay.
I have, we didn't get anything in here. I'm also serve on the Environmental Advisory Board when we thrashed all of this out back in July. We didn't get anything through on the hat racking of the trees and the 30-foot tall tree stumps. We didn't get anything ready for council on that yet.
I believe I thought that went through a code of ordinance. I'll have to check on that one, because I know that I think the attorney's office was working on that item before I got kind of involved with the EAB then. But I was aware of that code amendment. We can check on that to see if that had been approved through the code of ordinance then, side then, which would have gone just to council then. And I'll get back with you on that then.
Okay, I appreciate it.
I got one more quick question. Pine trees, would they be defined as shade trees?
No,
I would, yeah, because I don't like pine trees. I'd take them all down if I could.
they're not a specimen tree at all.
Yeah,
well,
so you'd be looking at hardwood trees.
When we have the list of trees that they can
Okay.
use, we're not going to discriminate. If it's on that list and the resident wants a pine tree, we're
Yeah,
going to let them
yeah.
get a pine tree. They want a palm tree, we'll work with them on that then.
Okay.
We want to make sure that they're comfortable with the tree
I
that they're
guess
planting
I'm
in their
using
yard.
personal choice on my trees. Pine needles in the screen enclosures, it's, yeah, I get it.
You have a
get
pine
it.
bias, do you?
I get it.
I think he hates pine trees.
I don't
I got no, I'm done with
I
my
feel like
questions.
pine
Thank
trees,
you.
I feel like palm trees.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with palm trees, hardwood trees, I
Then we
love
found
them.
out that,
Pine
then we
trees,
found out that,
sap, ugh.
then we
Yeah.
found out that the way that we all want to trim our palm trees is actually very unhealthy for the longevity and the sturdiness of the palm trees. So the quintessential picture perfect palm tree is actually not very healthy. So we found out a lot of things with this.
Gotta have a heart.
Is there any public comment on our, no public comment? Do we have a motion?
A motion to approve case number 18-25000009.
Second?
Motion and a second, please call the roll.
John Junko,
Yes.
Joe Fazzi,
Yes.
Tom Jordan.
Yes.
Lance Green.
Yes.
Chairman Newton White.
Yes. Did I? Motion carries. Case number 18-25000010, Land Development Code Text Amendment Chapter 2, 16 and 18, amendment to Chapter 2, 16 and 18 of the Land Development Code to update the regulations in the Land Development Code related to personal wireless communication facility siting. Mr. Berman.
And go.
All right, basically, I think a couple months ago we came for you with a moratorium on the personal wireless regarding on private property. Now we are back with that update to our current code. Basically, it's kind of a rehaul of what was in there previously, which was adopted in 1996. So this is a lot more up to date, and just want to kind of go through it. We tried to hit on the major points in the staff report by the items. The intent of this is to update the local siting requirements, also minimize impacts to residential areas through updates through setback, separation requirements, landscaping, and screening. So let's go ahead and go over the key points here. First preference is set that the preference for the city is to co-locate. This is basically a map on here on the right hand side here that shows the existing towers within Port Orange. These are the green star areas, and the preference would be for providers to co-locate on those existing facilities. So you'd be seeing more of the towers kind of on here on the screen here with multiple rings of antennas is what we want to encourage in the city, and that's the first preference when you come into Port Orange. Before you can even start talking to us regarding a new tower, new construction, you've got to look at this option and come back and show us that it's not achievable, and the code will have specific criteria that they have approved to us then. So if basically it is, not ability to do the co-location, there is also a siting hierarchy that has been created. Essentially, we identified the 6 items here then. Basically what it states is that essentially the first location you're supposed to look at is a camouflage pole, which is kind of the palm tree here on the picture, the camouflage pole within a municipal use property. That'd be something like city center area then.
That's cool.
or the flag too. Those are the camouflage poles. If that can't be achieved, then you'd have you can see you go to non-camouflage pole on municipal property. That's more of the lattice, the monopole, which you kind of see mostly around Port Orange then. Yeah. And you kind of see that we got to go through that. You go to the next step is light industrial, commercial industrial properties, typically further away from residential areas. And then the last is other zoning districts other than residential. Is kind of how we go through that. And again, each one of these steps as you go further down, you're going to have to prove to the city through that criteria why you cannot meet that requirement then.
Why you can't meet the
right.
top one, the
top
highest priority?
Goes co-location, and then we go down here 1, 2, 3. Each step you go down, you got to show us why. Some other things that have been added to it that were previously not in our code or updated to our code is setback and height requirements. The setback requirements is 110% of the tower height, which is compared to what we had previously. Some cases, towers could be, the setback was equal to the zoning district, which may be 25 feet. Now, if you had a 200-foot tower, it's looking at 220 feet setback versus 25 feet. That kind of takes in place the fall zone.
The fall zone, right, okay.
Issue. The other is there is basically, in terms of equipment, building, a minimum 10-foot setback. However, when you look at that hierarchy, the zoning district where this would be able to go into, those side setbacks and rear setbacks for those zoning districts are somewhere between 15 to 25 feet. As you can see, it would go with the greater part there. Another aspect that is not in the code, but we currently have in the Code of Ordinances, which one of the issues could be from noise associated with this, is that these would still, any equipment generators would be required to comply with the city's noise ordinance, which is already established. That noise ordinance would apply to any generator, built on a hospital, a residential one at this site. So they would be required to provide us with documentation meeting those requirements. That may push it further back into the site. We maintain the maximum height of the tower in the code. It was originally 300. That has been kept. The reason for that is if basically an existing tower can be extended in height, then that also will facilitate co-location then. A new requirement that was added is a separation requirement. This is basically between the tower and a residential property line. So this is in case the tower is proposed on a piece of property that doesn't directly abut to a residential property. It's still going to have to meet a separation requirement. You can see the camouflage one, like the palm tree, the flagpole, is going to be 2 times its height from a residential property line. The other poles would be 4 times the height. So a 200-foot pole would have to be essentially 800 feet from a residential property line. And then also we'd have a communication tower separation requirement that they have to be 1/2 mile between towers. Some other additional updates that were in that code, we clearly outlined the process for the submittal requirements to co-locate on towers, to replace communication equipment throughout a compound of a tower, to build a new tower, and also to modify existing towers to allow for co-location. The way the code is set up, pretty much the co-location and the modification to an existing tower is done through a building permit. Again, that's basically, try to facilitate that way to encourage co-location throughout the city of Port Orange. We require a submittal of a visual impact analysis. This allows for new towers to get a clear picture from various distances that would be specified by the city to see what that tower will look like from certain locations. They will be required to provide that with a submittal of a new tower. It maintains the requirements to install the fence or wall around the compound to screen from the equipment inside, along with the landscaping along the wall, and then also the buffers on that. So we did not change that. That's still a requirement that's maintained. And the last one, just want to touch base, is it establishes 2 fees. First, establishes a special fee, which can be used by the city to use outside consultants to help evaluate. In such cases, if they provide, they can't locate, they provide justification, we can use that fee to hire outside consultants to verify the information being provided is correct and accurate before we move forward with the tower siting. And the other one is a security fund payment for anyone who installs a new antenna on an existing pole or constructs a new pole is required to pay the security fund. And what that will do is the city allowed to hold it, and if there's ever an issue where a tower is damaged by storm, there's a nuisance related to that are not being addressed by the property owner, this would allow the city to be able to have the funds to go in there and correct that while we're legally working to get the money back then. So it allows us to go in and correct a possible nuisance, which could be, harmful to residents or the community as a whole then. So that's been created, that's part of the application process. I think that kind of outlines the large majority of the changes that we have put in this code. The other thing too that we did, which was mentioned there too, we updated a lot of our definitions so they are consistent, up to date, and match with what's in this new code new code amendment there on that one. So if there's any questions, be happy to answer them.
John?
Based on our past situations with the church, it seems like you did a fantastic job hitting all the points that were important to the public and to us. So I'm very happy. You guys did a great job putting this all together. Quick question, is this going to be relevant to the recent project with the tower and the church that they're trying to do? Because I understand they're still in negotiations to put that tower up, or at least find a feasible solution to the location of the tower. This will apply to this?
They have submitted a site plan at this moment to us. We're still in moratorium, so once that moratorium is lifted, the site plan submitted, we will apply our code that is adopted at that time.
Okay, all right, great. Good job.
Jeff?
I know with the nuisance problem, you have I guess birds that build nests on these kind of properties. Is there anything more specific that we can
I think the nuisance was in case, you know, if we have a major storm that comes through and let's say the antenna, you know, the antenna is knocked off or
Oh,
the
okay.
towers comes down, you know, something like that where, you know, you might not get a response for a communication company.
Oh, okay.
We can go in there and fix that problem. Or it could be, you know, nuisance related to, you know, maybe, you know, the walls damaged and you can see the equipment, and if a, you know, a residential neighborhood has to look into that then. Stuff like that, that fund would be able to be used for to remedy that.
Okay. But this doesn't pertain to like animals or birds or anything
No,
like?
it's more aesthetics and basically just protecting the general public then.
Okay, so that falls on the, I guess, the
Provider.
provider of the communication.
Right.
Has to have detractions for birds building nests and for safety. I mean, is there anything like safety for people trying to, you know, I'm just saying, you know, people not being smart trying to climb these things or whatever.
The code in here, the current code and this new, I mean the current code that we have in place, the new code that would replace it, still requires that fence or wall have anti-climbing devices on it then. So, you know, we review it at that time then. You know, to prohibit, I mean, but, you know, if someone, they really want to get over a wall, they're going to find a way to get over a
Oh,
wall.
yeah, they're
but
gonna find.
we basically we'll work to design them so it distracts or deters someone trying to climb over there.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Tom?
Yeah, I had one comment or question which I had sent to Tim via an email about how this applies to the, I guess what you call future communications possibilities, the small, you know, refrigerators, boxes that might be along the sidewalks or something like hanging on a power pole. This doesn't apply to that. That's covered under a totally different area of the ordinances.
Correct. Yeah, we have code of ordinance that applies to those that would be within the right of way.
Right.
They go through a separate process on that. Then these would basically be on private property outside the right of way. Then
Right.
On these ones.
So we're protected going forward in the future.
Yes.
Good. Thanks. That's all.
Tim, I just got a couple questions I wanted to ask. So do you know of somebody that you can go to as an outside source to review this document that you're wanting to put the special fee on?
Yeah, we have
I mean, there is outside
there are
consultants
outside
who actually
sources.
do
Yeah,
that?
there are outside sources. I think we had talked about too doing an RFP down the road there to possibly get 2 to 3 engineers on contract. That way we have a, you know, if we get a large number of them in here.
But then you'll be able to
Yeah.
establish what this fee is gonna be
Yes.
as this progresses
Correct.
through. And then my only other concern really is this security fund and how you're gonna be able to collect what kind of money and how long are you holding this money? Forever? Or?
Basically, it's I think
Like
we're
a
going to define
bond.
in the code there.
It's a
and
bond,
and the
per
money
se?
is basically provided to us, and then the only way they would get it back would be is if they come back and take that antenna or they take that tower down. They can then ask, hey, we took the tower down, can we have our money back then? So it essentially is.
Ensures they don't leave town and leave the tower there.
So all this though all has to go through the legal aspect of interest-bearing accounts and how this is all security deposited, so on, correct kind of
Yes.
thing, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Does this apply per tower and per antenna?
It's per antenna, so if you're
Okay.
even if you're doing co-locates,
Right.
you'd be required to pay that fee then.
Considerably less fee.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think going through it, I think we've covered it very well. I think you guys have done a great job at doing that. Just worry about these couple fees and making sure we know what they are before we get this thing written. That's all I got.
I was a little, I'm happy to see that the noise ordinance applies to this. And in the case that we were looking at, we had to have the meeting on for the one that was on Taylor Road near the church. The generator, you know, dubious amount of decibels that backs up, but we have other areas, I know behind shopping centers where, you know, there's a residential area right behind it. What noise ordinance, what's the strength of the noise ordinance that
Got it
they'll
right.
have to adhere to?
It's right here at the code of ordinances. It's between, you know, a residential area between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m.
knew that
You
question
can't
was coming.
exceed 50
That's right.
decibels then. So that would apply to anything that you can have adjacent to a residential area. And then between the hours of 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. it would be 60.
And it's measured by where the noise is being projected. So if it's being projected into a residential area, you have to comply with the residential
Right.
noise threshold.
So we've got the set there then. So that's what would apply to pretty much, you know, even if you're installing a generator on your own home, you know, your neighbor could basically use this code of ordinances to say, hey, generator's too loud on a commercial site like a hospital. These would all comply. Typically when we get these as a site plan review, we do require the documentation on that. and prior to final inspection, before you get any type of approval, we're gonna verify that that meets the case.
Yeah.
And go from that, and if it, if something happens, 2 or 3 years later, it gets louder and louder, then it becomes code enforcement action, which would go through the magistrate process there, based off this code then.
I've had them tested, yeah.
That must be a lot of fun during a hurricane, and
Yeah,
everybody's
yeah.
running generators.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. I remember when I was working at the supermarket, we could get our trucks around back, but they had to remember to cut the refrigeration unit off before they pulled around back, because that was what made more noise than the actual truck.
I remember working on that public site plan, we're out there with the noise meter.
Yep.
Yep, I remember.
Noise and light meters.
All right, do we have any public comment on this? Any representative from a communications company or anybody want to speak to this? No? Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve case number 18-25000010.
Second.
Motion and a second. Call the roll, please.
Sean Junko?
Yes.
Joe Fazzi?
Yes.
Tom Jordan?
Yes.
Lance Green?
Yes.
Chairman Newton White?
Yes. Motion carries.
Beauty.
Other business, commissioner comments. We'll start with Lance.
I have none today. Just like wish everybody a happy holiday. Let's get on out of here. Tim, I'm gonna let you off the hook today, bud. No sign talk today.
Mr. Jordan.
No, I have no comments other than Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. And
God, I'm gonna
everybody
be
stay
the
safe.
bad guy. Mr. Fozzie.
I just want to thank everyone for their hard work this year. I'm new to this board, but it seems like everyone works very hard at putting all this together, and I just want to thank you, and I look forward to the new year working with you more, and so we appreciate your effort and putting all this together.
The new guy buys Christmas presents for everybody. Did they
And
mention
snacks
that?
for every meeting next year.
I'm sorry.
Pizza.
But I just want to, again, just
Leave
wish
that
everybody,
application again.
Much better, yeah.
except these two guys, I want to wish everybody Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, Happy New Year, be safe.
John?
One quick comment, just getting the status on the repair work on Taylor Road. I understand there's a change of engineering that may delay it a little bit.
That's not Tim's
You didn't
department.
think you'd get out that easy, huh?
Come on, man, that's not Tim's department.
Yeah, I'll have to get back to update with you. I'd have to check with Public Utilities. I know that timeline, they're working on it still.
Yeah.
I mean, construction's, they're working as hard as they can to get it restored. I'll have to get an update for you and send that to you later.
Yeah, well, I heard it was just delayed with engineering changes, so.
Figures.
All right.
That was understandable. They
Yeah, that ain't gonna take 2 weeks to fix.
washed out the bridge. I do have, Mr. Berman. I noticed that the new 7-Eleven at Madeline and Nova is open.
Yes.
And I noticed that the interconnect between that and the property to the south of it is, they've got the pavement, they got the asphalt there, it's all paved, it's all cleared, and the barricade is still there on 4x4s with stop signs on it.
7-Eleven did everything that they possibly could to get the other property owner to agree with them. They refused to work with them.
Not again.
Yeah, I mean, 7-Eleven, we had that comment from the get-go on that site plan project, and they have, throughout the process, included us in the email chain. They worked on it for like 9 months to get basically there. So again, it's one of those ones where it's set up. We got to wait for that property to do any type of modification, and then they would be required to comply with it.
That's disappointing.
But 7-Eleven, they did make the connection. They did everything that they possibly could to get that done. Then, so it's just getting the next property owner to conform, and we go from there. Then.
It's like the one I sent you a couple months ago.
I think there's 3 of them that we have on Nova Road there.
Yeah, and well, the
That's
other
so
one's
needed.
by the AT&T, I think it's the AT&T store.
There's AT&T, then Andy
by-
Clark's property.
Right there by Wawa, or between
CVS,
AT&T
everything.
and Wawa too. And people have decided to make their own.
Yeah.
And then I noticed it looked like the employees are parking their cars there now to block it.
Really?
Yeah. I noticed that when I was going to Wawa. Is
Is
there any, I mean, there's nothing in the code, in the building code to comply, is there any thing that can be done by council, by ordinance, if it was brought to their attention to get these people to comply? Because I know certainly we put this into,
We've talked about this many times, and I really, really think that unfortunately there's not a lot that you can't make somebody
think where it
access your
comes into-
property.
when it comes into play, and it worked really well, is when we did it along Dunlawton Avenue before, as part of the corridor plan, before Dunlawton started developing.
Yeah.
As everyone develops, then they're required to do it. Now we're going back and doing infill,
Yeah.
and this code requirement doesn't really work well with infill. It might, we were talking, it might be basically us just having to contact these property owners to try to, move them along then on that side then.
Yeah.
Or, like we said, say, if they redevelop, then we get them at that point.
Yeah, so council's already established a policy to require cross connection. It's a chicken and egg thing. It's, once these properties redevelop, or if they make any substantial modification requiring a site plan, they'll be required to meet the existing code. But the properties that have been there prior to our cross connection control requirement,
You're
have no way
grandfathered
of
in.
Yeah.
retroactively applying
Yeah.
that to them.
Such as that AT&T property.
They met the code at the time of development.
Yep. What kind of chicken is that, man?
no, that's it for me. Except I would like to recap that we've had a good year. We've seen a lot of things, we've seen a lot of growth through the city. Tim, the Community Development Department has been stellar in my opinion this year. All the staff, I see some have already gone home, but please pass it along. The cooperation, the answers for us, to me anyhow, have been great. I've enjoyed this year as chairman, and thank you very much, and Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
From staff, we just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Public comment?
Oh,
Yeah, we got public comments. Any public comments?
you want
You're the only one. Anything?
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Tom.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.